Welcome back into the Door Report. This is episode number 37. I'm broadcasting live from Naples, Florida, alongside my co-host, Will Byrum, who is up in Nashville, Tennessee. And we are back and better than ever this Tuesday afternoon. It's about, it's almost 2 o'clock here in Naples, about 1 o'clock there in Nashville. Before we get to the breaking news and all the talk about the week 1 matchup with A&M, don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram. On Twitter, we are door_report, Instagram, door.report. Like us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Our podcast is available on Anchor, iTunes, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. So hit us up on all those platforms and, give us a rating, give us some 5 stars and we will provide some entertaining content for you, on that front. But Will, how about the weekend? I mean, Saturday night was one of the more intriguing matchups it turned out to be in the SEC in terms of that finish in College Station.
Yeah, I think ESPN and SEC Network kind of regretted putting that game on SEC Network alternate channel with the F team announcers there, but it ended up being a lot closer, and we'll get into the details of kind of the breakdown of the good, the and the bad, I think is what we might call that segment the rest of the season. So
I like it.
But it was definitely an entertaining game and a lot closer than a lot of us even expected as Vanderbilt fans.
No doubt. I mean, obviously you got to watch a lot of it. And, I didn't get to watch a whole lot, but yeah, we will dive deep into that game because Ken Seals is the story and we will talk plenty about him. The Vanderbilt defense looking solid against a great offense there with Kellen Mond. So we'll dive into all that and much more coming up later in the pod, but we're going to get a quick breaking news segment in because there are a few pieces of news for us to talk about. And this breaking news segment is obviously presented by the Recycling Dudes. Obviously, Vanderbilt lands a commitment from – this is today. They landed a commitment from local 3-star DB John House, the 4th. Is that it?
John House. I believe he's the 4th, not a Roman numeral.
Yeah. So we're going to go with John House the 4th. And this was a guy that he was on Mason's radar for a while. And for him to commit to Vanderbilt is a huge get. AD Candace Story-Lee was on the phone with him actually, discussing plans for the program's future, and she essentially sealed the deal. And as he announced his commitment, he committed to Vanderbilt over Boston College and Nebraska. And Will, this is a legit local get for Coach Mason after a good fight in Aggie Lane. Some nice timing.
Yeah, it's good to see some local talent staying in the area and committing to Vanderbilt. You've seen it in the past, whether it's Joanne Williams or Cam Johnson. They were a little bit higher rated of prospects. He's a 3-star according to the 24/7 Sports Composite ratings. But like I've mentioned on previous podcasts, I usually like to look at who has offered this player as opposed to necessarily their scout star ratings. And I mean, the list, I can't even name off all of them, but you mentioned a couple in Boston College and Nebraska that were kind of on his final list. And he also had offers from Virginia, West Virginia, Penn State, Ole Miss, Missouri, Mississippi State, Michigan, and the list goes on. So it's a guy that chose Vanderbilt over a lot of, I don't want to say, but more prestigious programs. And it feels like there's a little bit of energy kind of picking up around that Commodore program that we really haven't seen in recent history, even really since Mason's tenure began outside of that 3-game stretch before that Alabama game that we all remember ever so fondly.
Yeah. Hey, Alabama, you're next. Hopefully we're not getting that this year at all. But no, Will, you said it right there. There's a little bit of momentum. I mean, they didn't win the game at A&M, but a 17-12 loss is obviously another, moral victory that Vanderbilt, fans always love to talk about. But I mean, yeah, like you mentioned, I think John House was watching that game. He had to have been watching that game, looking at it. Not sure if Boston College played or, school like Penn State played, obviously not yet. But, he's a local kid and he's coming to West End. So he becomes Vanderbilt's 16th commit for the 2021 class. Number 68 Vanderbilt was at. Now they moved to number 63 overall in the country. So, and again, he's got good size, 6'2", 185. He might be able to get up to 200 pounds, when he gets up to Vanderbilt. So, it's going to be fun to see kind of, what kind of momentum this creates in recruiting, because you see a local kid commit, I'm sure there's a quarterback of Brentwood, Kate Granzo, who's actually is one of his better friends, and Vanderbilt's recruiting him. So maybe, this guy can create a little bit of momentum that Vanderbilt needs, for this. So again, when you look at it, it's not an insane, like, this is a season changer, but this is a little bit of momentum like you talked about there, Will. And then moving on to the second piece, we got limited student attendance is now allowed at Vanderbilt. And this is something that, we were talking about before the season started as what are they going to do with fans? What are they going to do? My thing is, why is it limited? Why are we doing limited student attendance? The Aggie student section, 12th man, was packed. I mean, that was loud. And so for Vanderbilt, obviously the limited student attendance isn't necessarily a game changer. It's not going to affect, the opposing team on third down or anything like that. But Candace Lee said, in quote, as part of our ongoing efforts, we've decided to allow a very limited number of Vanderbilt students to attend the October 3rd game and cheer on our student athletes. This is a small step toward normalcy based on guidance from our public health partners, but we're not taking it lightly. We will work to ensure the health and safety of the Vanderbilt community as much as possible. Well, I don't understand this personally. If you're going to limit it, just don't open it all, and they don't even have parents coming to the games yet either.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings on this. So it's a good step in the direction they're allowing anybody into the stadium. So they're backtracking a little bit on their initial no fans in attendance whatsoever, which would be unprecedented across the country, specifically within the SEC. Is I think the other lowest capacity was like 20% or something along those lines. So
yeah.
The only issue that I have with it, I understand. We kind of went over, I believe it was 2 episodes ago, kind of the limitations that Vanderbilt faces uniquely within the conference, and pretty much all Power 5 being located in a larger city, out-of-state students, a lot living on campus. So, but on the flip side of that, if you're just going to go the just allowing students route, I mean, I believe the stat is over 90% of Vanderbilt students already live on campus. So
Exactly.
They're already on that small campus, interacting with each other on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Social distance within that stadium. They don't just have to be crammed into the student section because they're not even allowing parents and family.
Yeah, let me say this: if they social distance in that student section, it's gonna look worse with even if there were no students. If you're gonna have a student section, you don't social distance. I mean, the 12th man, they had masks on, but that was packed.
Yeah, I mean, and Vanderbilt's probably definitely not going to take a step in that direction, being the private academic elite university that they are. They're going to be as progressive as possible and please everybody across social media and the media in general. So, but seeing this stuff, it is bizarre that you have a 40,000 seat stadium. I know that's pretty small compared to the SEC, but it's still a pretty damn big stadium.
Yeah.
You should easily be able to have 5,000 people, 8,000 people in attendance, and you wouldn't have anybody within 10, 15 feet of each other, and limit access to concessions, restrooms. Yeah. So I feel like it's like, here's a tiny little treat here, but in all actuality, we're hiding this feast that you could be having. I mean, if you just allow Vanderbilt season ticket holders along with an allotment of students, you're not going to have more than 20, 25% capacity in that stadium. So especially with opt-outs from the already pretty limited season ticket holder base. So
yeah, it's so Vanderbilt, but the other thing is, like, well, if you look at Ken Seals' father, he went to the game in College Station, and he might not be able to go to his son's next game at home against LSU, another top, maybe not top 10 team, but a top 25 team. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, just a side note on that, it's not the best thing to say. We are Vanderbilt fans, so I hate to be the person that brings up attendance, everything, but at the LSU game when they got beat, what was it, 66-38 or something like that, really high scoring affair last season.
Yeah.
And it was conservatively 85% LSU fans. They had a home field advantage. So
the Georgia game was like 95%.
Yes, I actually was on the field. I had field passes for that game, and looking up at the stands, watching the red file in, and just being like, "Oh my God!"
It was just like
we're really at 95%. But it's actually not a disadvantage to Vanderbilt to not allow a large number, even if it's 20% of fans in the stands. Which
exactly,
is also a unique situation, which I know has to be playing a factor in this
It's
decision.
probably playing a factor in this decision, honestly. I think with just how they are as the small private school in the SEC, that's I guarantee you that's filing in. We're going to continue on though with wrapping this up. We also we have an in-person tailgate. The athletic department will host the Commodore Tailgate Show before each home game. This is part of the initiative, taken by Candace Lee. It'll be hosted by Kevin Ingram. It will stream live on Vanderbilt Athletics Facebook page, Twitter account, and YouTube channel, and also on viewcommodores.com. So an interesting, good hire there with Kevin Ingram. He's going to be hosting that, no doubt. So, Will, it's time, to recap this A&M game that we had week 1. And I mean, this was a very, very unexpected performance, no doubt. We're going to go through the good, the bad, the ugly, throughout this game. And then to close it out, we'll look ahead to LSU. But Will Byrum, what were your initial thoughts? Not getting into the good, not getting into the bad quite yet, but initial thoughts after a game like this where it was just kind of like, is this happening?
Yeah, I'll try to put it into 3 bullet points before we go into the analysis of it a little bit further. Some of the good, I mean, obviously Ken Seals is the thing that jumps off the page, jumps off the screen for you. He was kind of the talk of Commodore Nation after that. I mean, and he was good. He wasn't amazing. He wasn't perfect. He was good.
He was better in one game than any other quarterback they had last year.
Yeah, and I believe we were discussing it in our group, the Door Report group. We were talking about that we were trying to kind of temper our expectations because he was good, but he's a freshman. I mean, there's going to be ups and downs, and I put in there, I think we deserve to be excited because I think we saw one half of decent quarterback play, and I emphasize decent from Mo Hassan in that Missouri game.
Yeah.
That cheap shot that knocked him out, but
that's the thing.
Yeah.
You mentioned the cheap shot that knocked him out. That's the one thing I think I'm like. Ken Seals plays like a dog. Like he's not scared of anything. That's a good A&M defense with a lot of speed, a lot of beef up front. And he went in there. He wasn't losing yards on his runs. He had these quarterback keepers where he would pound 3, 4, 5 yards. That's what you want. You weren't going to get that from. You might get it from Mo Hassan last year, but he's really not as big and athletic as Ken Seals. And the announcers were acting like Ken Seals was inept at running the ball. I don't know if you saw that, but they were like, no, they don't want this kid running. Have you seen he's getting 5 yards a carry?
On a side note on the announcers in that broadcast, you didn't get to sit down and watch the entirety of it, but that SEC Network alternate broadcast.
I noticed it a little bit.
Absolutely horrible. I mean, I think you could have stuck us in there in the booth with no preparation and it might have been better. I mean, there was no flag animation popping up on the screen. There was no first down markers, no line of scrimmage markers. Every time there was a flag,
and I don't think that's just Vanderbilt. Like that this game is at A&M. People it's not a Vanderbilt Missouri game. Like this.
Yeah, it was honestly amazing that I was sitting there and I was thinking these guys. I know they're kind of the bottom tier. They're assigned to the SEC Network alternate team, but this is their job. Like, and it was like watching a high school broadcast. But to get back to the game, the other couple things that really jumped off besides Ken Seals. Kind of on the more bad side was kind of the lack of involvement of Cam Johnson. Talking about specific players. He had some targets, a couple receptions, and unsure if it was a route miscommunication, if he ran the wrong route that caused one of those interceptions by Ken Seals inside the Texas A&M red zone. But his lack of involvement was something that really jumped off the page. And then another thing, because I won't get into the good, and there is plenty of it, this is more of a criticism.
Yeah.
Without Keon Brooks, our running backs,
and
really offense in general, really lack explosive playmaking ability. We're really lacking that guy, like whether it's Keyshawn Vaughn.
The absence of Keyshawn is really showing.
Yeah, and it's not – in the past, Vanderbilt hasn't always had the most explosive playmakers, but they've had some speed guys or guys that can bust big plays, whether it's Keyshawn Vaughn, Ralph Webb, Jordan Matthews, guys like that, and they really don't have that this year. I'm really hoping the addition of Keon Brooks will kind of boost that as he is kind of a speed burner kind of guy.
Yeah.
And hopefully Cam Johnson, we can see some more involvement. Yeah. But those are kind of the 3 main things that jumped out before we get into a little bit more of an in-depth breakdown.
Yeah, and then one more thing here, Will. I was thinking after the game, this was late. I know I sent a late message to the Door Report group chat, but I was just sitting there thinking, What if Ken Seals was the quarterback last year? What if we had Ken? You had Cam Johnson, also Keyshawn, and the big three. Was our quarterback play that bad last year?
Yeah, it was kind of that question right there is exactly what the opposite question that I think all of us asked watching Riley Neal take snaps was, how good was Kyle Shermer? I mean, was he
Yeah.
that good that he literally made this offense, which didn't see a lot of turnover between 2018 and 2019, go from being, a mid-tier SEC offense, had some really explosive playmaking ability, to literally inept, one of the
Oh,
worst in all of
just
FBS
just
football.
horrible. I mean, it was just horrible. I mean, and then getting into this season, you already see in one game. And I know, we're going to temper our expectations, but that's a damn good A&M team on the road with their 12th man there and loud. That is an impressive performance by Ken Seals. And we could have a flowing conversation all podcast here, but we are going to put a little bit of structure in with just running through our breakdown of the game against A&M. The good. We're going to start with the good, Will. I'll throw mine in first here. I think there are a few things. The defensive line looked good. They for as much as Vanderbilt's D line has looked these past few years under Coach Mason, they looked good. This could be potentially, if they continue to play this well, the best D line unit he's had. And then the secondary that they were flying around. Another thing, Will, the both coordinators coming in, they have made an immediate noticeable impact. In one game, like I said, and it's hard. Obviously, they were keeping things under wraps in the off season leading into this season, but they have made an impact. There are two coaches, Ted Roof on the defense, and Todd Fitch on the offense. I mean, they are as good as it gets for Vanderbilt, at least. These guys have been coaching for a while, and they show that they have what it takes to compete in the SEC in one game. And again, we're tempering our expectations, but again, they looked really good. I thought they ran the ball well at certain times. Considering all the O-line issues, I thought Marlowe looked good at times. Wakefield is a bruiser. I mean, he has improved. He could be the most improved player. And then I think Ken Seals, his awareness disguised a lot of the missed assignments and missed blocks on the O-line. He would get the ball out quick. He would kind of evade pressure, roll right, roll left, and throw on the run. So those are kind of my good that I think kept Vanderbilt in the game, really.
Yeah, and you mentioned the offensive line looking really good, and that is one of the main things that stuck out to me. Was I was expecting, honestly, complete ineptitude, and nobody could blame them. I mean,
Me too.
You're missing four guys that were going to be starting, and you have
You have a D line on. You have a D line on.
You have a guy that, yeah, he played for 4 years at defensive line and is now starting on the offensive line. So the expectations were low, and they blew the expectations out of the water. Another thing that made that offensive line look a lot better is we have not had a mobile quarterback outside of that glimpse at Mo Hassan. Not even saying a speed burning, but just Kyle Shermer, for how good he was. He was stuck in quicksand. So he made that offensive line. If there was any pressure, he was not going to escape it. And Ken Seals, you saw them roll him out a lot. And that was a big addition to the offense. So Ken Seals, you touched on that offensive line play, defensive line play. You touched on that. The Vanderbilt defensive line was actually graded the highest of any Power 5 team in the country.
Yep.
By Pro Football Focus. The defense was really opportunistic. Texas A&M made mistakes, and they jumped on every single fumble. One more guy to mention that I had actually highlighted as a guy to keep an eye on this upcoming season in the depth chart breakdown on an article on thedoreport.com was Amir Abdur-Rahman.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely came out and
looked damn good.
Really good. Wearing a different number. He was wearing 87 before. Now he's wearing number 2. His routes looked really crisp. He did drop a ball that Ken Seals threw an absolute dime to him on the Texas A&M offside.
That was a tough drop.
And it was inside the 10, and it went straight through his hands. But other than that, he was really solid and really efficient. So that was a guy that they were really happy to have back.
And he's a big guy too. Like he's got that Jordan Matthews style where he's physical. He's not a speed demon. He's not gonna bust a defense loose and break it for 70. But I think he's got enough moves in him, and he's got enough enough beef to where he will get those extra 4 or 5 yards. You saw that on the play where Seals, obviously immediate pressure, steps up a little bit and throws kind of across his body to the left side, past the A&M outstretched arm. Abdur-Rahman, he's got to work for an extra 3 yards, and he gets it, first down. So if we can get Ken Seals, Cam Johnson, and Abdur-Rahman working together, this offense can be I don't know about special, but this offense will definitely be light years ahead of last year's. And especially when you look at a guy like Abdur-Rahman who has kind of the same style as Chris Pierce. You know, why can't Chris Pierce be another guy like that as well? So and he's a guy, you can tell he's been working on his game a lot after a tough injury, you know, that set him out the whole year last year, right?
Yeah, injured really early in the year, and I'd plugged in that same article the video of him catching that ball against Tennessee one-handed with a guy grabbing him, and I think that
was the beginning.
Yeah, I think that's what most people saw. I remember when he committed, I think his name on Twitter was like Epic Monkey, and I think it still might be.
Yeah.
But I remember just looking at him being like, Epic Monkey, who is this guy we just got?
Who is this?
And I watched his highlight tape, and I was blown away. And I was like, this guy is going to be a stud.
Yeah, he's same type of recruit as Jordan Matthews too, a diamond in the rough type of guy. Where, you know, Jordan Matthews was a 2-star. I think Abdur-Rahman either a 2 or 3-star. So you look at both those guys and you say, hey, they could have the same kind of trajectory if Abdur-Rahman continues to play this well. And he's built like a tight end. So you know, we'll see what he does. Tight ends did look good though. Ben Bresnahan he made some tough catches in some tight spaces. And Cam Johnson, you mentioned, only 4 targets, but as we talked about, every defense from here on out, it's going to be keying on him just due to his speed and ability, you know, for yards after the catch. I mean, he's a guy that Ken Seals, I think, has a lot of chemistry with. I mean, he has to. He's the number one guy. He's the number one receiver. But that's probably part of the reason Abdur-Rahman was so open a lot. You know, maybe not open, but they had, you know, their second or third DB on him. You know, so that's kind of a little bit of where the offense was going with the receivers. And in terms of the running backs, we talked about it a little bit earlier. Marlowe and Wakefield looked solid. Wakefield, I think, could be one of the most improved players on this team. You know, he showed a lot of effort there and extra yards. But in terms of this running game, do you think that's enough? Like, do you think what they did against A&M is enough to open up that passing game for Seals?
I'm going to give a one-word answer, and then is no, absolutely not. That running game was absolutely not enough. There were a few plays in particular that kind of you wouldn't get just looking at the stat sheet, but watching the flow of the game, seeing how the runs. There were a couple times where they really had the edge, or they'd really set the edge well, and had it either one-on-one with a guy on the outside, a cornerback or a safety, or they had a guy they couldn't beat to the edge, and it, you know, it was a 16-yard gain, right, for example. But it should have been, with guys we've had in the past, it should have been a 40-yard gain or a touchdown. And you only get 4 or 5 opportunities like that, especially playing as a legitimate underdog.
Yeah.
So and this is highlighted, kind of, we discussed it before, speed. I mean, that is going to be the thing that we're going to be talking about all year, that lack of big playability is going to be the thing that holds this team back. And the execution, not anything the running backs did poorly. Keon Brooks, I'm really, really looking for him to come in and be that guy that changes the pace of the game, because Marlowe and Wakefield have extremely similar running styles. They're not going to blow you away with speed, but they've got good vision, secure at the ball, and they'll get those extra yards. So having a guy like Keon Brooks would have been massive in this game.
Oh, no doubt. And especially with Marlowe, he doesn't have a ton of experience. You know, this is really his first year where he's bursting out kind of onto the scene. And, you know, we're not saying they played bad. You know, these guys, they're just not game breakers. They're not a guy like Keyshawn Vaughn. And with this offense, I agree. I think they need to have that guy they can rely on to where, hey, we can throw it to him in the backfield, or we can throw it to this receiver in the slot, and he will bust it for 50, 60. Is that Cam Johnson? We didn't see it in A&M, so we'll see. But my prediction is that it is Cam Johnson. And maybe it's a guy like Abdur-Rahman where, you know, you can just throw it to in the red zone when they need a go-to guy, you know, and right now they don't have that. You know, last year before the season even started, the go-to guy was Keyshawn. You know, it's just kind of it's a safety kind of thing. It's okay, we know we have this guy. When in doubt, give him the ball. So that's the thing to watch on offense, and then on defense, I'm confident. I'm confident this defense it's especially because they only gave up 17 points against a great offense. That offense is athletic. They got a lot of guys that Kellen Mond can throw to, and you saw it. Spiller broke loose a few times, and the defense was just they were just not ready for it. And again, for this defense, tempered expectations for both sides of the ball, but on defense, that Ted Roof coached unit played well, especially up front.
Yeah, we're kind of transitioning into the criticism here. The bad, I would say, kind of relating to the run game getting loose for Texas A&M or short passes getting loose for more yards than they should, as well as that defense played, and they played really well. However, some of those points and stats are skewed just because of careless errors by Texas A&M. Obviously, that play
right
by Andre Mintz was massive. That was a forced turnover. There's a difference between a turnover and a forced turnover.
Yeah.
And there were 2 or 3 of those other fumbles where they were not forced. They were careless errors, not really getting as much practice time as usual, jumping straight into SEC play. So I would temper the expectations down a little bit for the defense, because without those if you reduced those fumbles that they had that were kind of unforced, you're going to see a stat line that's a lot more dominant from Texas A&M, because they still did outgain Vanderbilt pretty significantly. We still held an advantage in time of possession, but they outgained us by over 120 yards. And most of that was within the running game, but penalties and turnovers really set them back during that game. So the initial tackling, I don't know, I don't have the numbers on it. I haven't gone back and watched the full game.
Yeah, I got them.
I believe it was 10, 11, 12 times they missed an initial tackle that resulted in extra yardage for Texas A&M.
Yeah, so you mentioned the fumbles. There were 3 guys on defense that recovered fumbles. Deshaun Jerkins actually made the hit, and he recovered that one on Kellen Mond. And then you had Jalen Mahoney recover one, and Davion Davis recovered one. So 3 guys. And if they can get that, multiple turnovers, double, in a game, that's what you need, especially with a team like Vanderbilt, a limited offense. The defense has to be opportunistic, and they were against A&M. They were opportunistic. They took advantage, and Davion Davis actually had an interesting quote today. I don't know if you saw it. I think it was either the Hustler or VandySports.com. They said Davis said, "We value the ball. We want the ball, and that's what defensive coordinator Ted Roof has been preaching. Get the ball." Just fall on the ball, and that, because that's what we need. I mean, we want the ball back. So,
yeah, and you're touching on opportunities there that the defense created, whether it was stopping them in good field position, and we're kind of going through the bad now. We've praised the defense a little bit, but we do have some criticism. The missed opportunities from the offense, and this relates to something I'll get into in a second, which was something that really jumped out to me: conservative play calling as well. I'll just run through 6 different possessions for the Commodores really fast.
Let's do it.
We started on our own 40 off a punt, punted the ball. Started on our own 46. So this is all possessions within 10 yards of midfield or past midfield. We started. We forced a punt, got the ball in our own 46 from a fumble, punt. We started on the own 44. We got to the Texas A&M 40 and punted. We started on the A&M 30 from a fumble, or 43 from a fumble. We did score there. So that was an opportunity we capitalized on.
There we go.
Started on our own 42 from a fumble. Interception at the A&M 20. That was either the miscommunication between Cam Johnson or he ran the wrong route.
Yeah, whatever that was.
And then we started on our 36 from a fumble, and it was a punt. So you're looking at 1 out of 6 of those good field position opportunities capitalized on. And that's just not going to get it done, which kind of gets to what we were talking about, where you're pleased with the performance, but you kind of sit back and you're like,
we could have won this game.
Damn, you almost look back and you're like, we made less mistakes. We should have won this game.
Exactly.
And we outplayed them. We out-executed them, and we still lost. So your expectations kind of shifted, and I kind of had to take a step back after that game was over, because I was extremely frustrated and say, okay, this is a lot to build on. We kind of woke up the rest of the SEC and country, and you've kind of seen that in some power rankings, but to what contributed to those missed opportunities, and something that was driving me ballistic all night, was I understand wanting to protect your freshman quarterback, not show too much game one, but our play calling was I was
Wasn't-
not impressed. I was not
wasn't
impressed
the
with Todd
best.
Fitch.
I mean, so the thing about it is the concepts were really good. They were a lot better than last year. But yes, some of the play calling, and I think a little bit of it was on Ken. A misread here, a misread there. There were a few times where he gave it to the running back and it lost a few yards where there's green grass to your left side, Ken. Read that.
Yeah, the big thing is I'm not sure how many of those RPOs are just the quarterback running
Or actual read.
or actual reads. I think a lot of those were him carrying out a fake because they're not wanting to put too much on his plate. I get that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was very, 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 very disappointed in Todd Fitch after what we'd heard all year, because I'll run through this really quick. I went through the entire play-by-play of the game. And in the first half, we had 15 first downs.
Mm-hmm.
We ran the ball 13 times on first down.
Yeah, you got to mix it up.
And of those 13, which is 86.67% of our first down plays for runs, only one out of those 13 gained 5 or more yards. And I believe it was only 3 of them gained 3 or more yards, or more than 3 yards. So you're starting yourself in a hole. And then a lot of what we saw in the second half was much of the same, 6 out of the 11 first downs. And that's even counting the last 2 possessions that were obviously a different situation later in the fourth quarter down. Still throughout the game, we ran the ball in 19 out of 26 first down plays. That's almost 75%, and only 10% of those. So 2 out of 19 of those resulted in a gain of 5 or more yards. So it was one of those things that I was like, I've got to go back and look at this play-by-play because it feels like we were running it on every single first down. And it wasn't in my head. And then obviously on the other 7 first down plays, we threw the ball. 3 out of those 7 resulted in a gain of 5 or more yards. So I understand you're setting up that pass play.
Yeah.
I get that.
But if you're not gaining anything, you're not setting anything up.
Yeah, and the huge part of it is you're sitting there, you're playing the number 10 team in the country with 4 missing starting offensive linemen. Like, if the freshman quarterback, you don't want to kill his confidence, but man, open up the playbook.
Yeah.
Like, you had a chance. You had opportunities to shock the nation.
Yeah. And you have guys out there. You have Amir Abdur-Rahman. You got Cam Johnson. And
I feel like
4 targets.
Our guys Todd Fitch sat there and he left there with ammunition in his gun.
Yeah.
I mean, he
exactly. You're right.
And that could have changed the entire complexion of the Vanderbilt program if you go into Texas A&M and pull that upset off. So I was very impressed with Ted Roof more because I was really high on Todd Fitch before the season. I was very impressed with Ted Roof.
Yeah. It's kind of more of a wait and see on Fitch.
But man, Fitch, because all we heard all year was, man, we're going to be throwing these quick game, quick slants, 75% of plays, hurry up. And we didn't really see a lot of that. So it's going to be a wait and see. I mean,
like you said, the ammunition is there. They still have ammunition. And when you look at it, they got LSU coming up. A good defense. I mean, that's another damn good defense that you got to look for in terms of that matchup. So we're almost up here on time. This is definitely the longest Door Report episode we've had, and we could talk about that A&M game maybe for 3 hours. I mean, we could sit here and talk about it all day. But that does it here really for the Door Report. We will touch on the LSU game here just a little bit. We'll have another preview episode coming up. But the Vanderbilt football team, they're back in Nashville, ready to make its Vanderbilt Stadium debut. 6:30 Saturday night. You can watch it on the SEC Network. They came up short at A&M. We will see how they do against the LSU Tigers coming up this Saturday night. We will have another preview episode against LSU Tigers coming up, hopefully either Thursday or Friday. But for myself, Billy, Derrick, and Will Byrum, you've been listening to episode number 37 of the Door Report presented by Alaco Hardwood Flooring.